Tesla has finally published the production and delivery numbers, and everybody who looked into it and understands Tesla a little bit has said the same thing, which is, well, production is way higher than deliveries, so therefore we have an inventory issue, and that is an indication that there's a demand issue. I don't believe that this is true, and I will try to explain in this video why I believe it isn't. If you like my channel, if you like my work, support me, put subscribe button, become a patron, whatever. So let's get started. So the numbers are obviously not as good as people expected in terms of deliveries. So below expectation, although this is just an expectation from Wall Street. And if you look at the numbers from Tesla, we know it's already above 60% of that what they projected back in 2020. So it's fantastic numbers from my perspective. But I understand that short-term traders, look at the next quarter and they just take what Wall Street considered as expected, and they match the two, and obviously some are disappointed, which escapes me, but okay, that's fine. So let's take a look into the industry. I've been working 20 years in supply chain management, so I think I understand a little bit processes in manufacturing. I'm an engineer, I studied production engineering, so I've been deep into that matter. If you go into the manufacturing industry, you find different ways and philosophies how to produce. In particular, small companies starting in the beginning with make to order, which is a customer order, which means you get a customer order in, and based on that specific customer with a name tag on it, you start to producing and you deliver your product to that specific customer, deal done. So that works until a company at a certain size, because then you usually switch into a different model, which is more a make to stock, which means you produce in a neutral way your variety of products into stock, so you create inventory, and sales is trying to sell that inventory. And this is a very normal process or philosophy the automotive industry has, because in particular German automotive companies, but also others, have a huge variety of variations of vehicles and models. I mean, we talk literally thousands of different models just for the VW group. And if you produce for each of those a certain stock, you just can deliver quick, which is the advantage. The disadvantage is, by doing that, producing to stock, you're going to have a lot of inventory and creating tied up capital, which is negative for your balance sheet, obviously. So what is the solution here? A few years ago, actually a few decades ago, Dell showed that, Dell, a huge computer manufacturer, showed that you can make to order, so customer-specific orders produced, even if you are a big organization. It wasn't easy, but with the right software, they've been able to implement the right processes. And by doing that, they've been extremely slim in their processes and their inventories, which was good for the profit bottom line of the company. So why do I explain that? I explain that because Tesla is a little bit different here. Tesla is doing something in between. So if you have a huge production like Tesla, you limit the amount of variations, which is the case with Tesla, because they have literally, actually what I call it, two different models, Model Y and Model 3. And I bind them even together because 70% of all parts of these two models are the same. So you can actually say it's one model with two variations. I know, we have Model S and Model X, but this is small volume. So let's disregard this for a second. If you have Model 3 and Model Y, it's actually more or less, 70% same parts. Therefore, it's easy to get started in production if you have enough orders in, regardless if you produce for a specific customer, simply because the variations are extremely slim. If you look at the order, page from Tesla, there's not a lot what you can choose from. And parts of that, like autopilot or full self-driving or advanced autopilot, are options that you actually can take later on. So you get the full package anyhow. So what you can choose is more or less the interior color And let's be honest, I mean, this is the three colors, I think, three or four. So this is not a lot of variations that Tesla as an auto manufacturer has. So in other words, what Tesla is doing is they are looking at the entire volume of orders they have, and maybe this volumes of orders went down. That's possible, I don't know, but they are still enough to get going, to pedal down the metal and really to give full speed in production, because this is what we are seeing at all production sites, be it in the US, in China, or here in Germany. So Tesla are starting production, and they allocate or they match the specific customer order with a product that they have produced at a certain point in the supply chain. I will give you an example from me, because I've ordered a Model S plate, and the plate is being delivered to Germany now. Today is January the 3rd, and Tesla wanted to deliver, obviously, my vehicle in December, and they postponed it 4 or 5 times because of logistics issues. There are a couple of possibilities. For instance, you have a storm in the Atlantic, or truck drivers are not allowed to drive at certain times, and they haven't planned for that. So a lot of things can happen, disruption in the supply chain, which you didn't plan for. So therefore, they've been postponing my order a few times, and all of a sudden it wasn't possible anymore in Q4. They had to push it over to Q1. But guess what? They gave me a call and asked me to pay for my vehicle when it wasn't even in Europe. I know that because I've been asking, and the information I got was interesting. And just looking at the ships that are still on the ocean, and there are trackers out there, I could identify that my vehicle is out there. And a lot of other people do the same. So the match from the vehicle that Tesla has produced based on the overall order count to a specific customer is partly, at least, happening really on the ocean. And people are paying while their car is still on the ship. And that happened with me. So Tesla gets a cash in, and that's going to be seen in the balance sheet as cash flow, but the vehicle is not counted in Q4 as sold, because Tesla only counts a vehicle sold once it is delivered and in the hands of the customer. Not the case with me. My car is going to be delivered tomorrow at January the 4th. So what is counted as inventory, my car is right now counted in the Q4 numbers as inventory, and people claim, well, this is just a car that's standing around, there's no demand behind, is simply not true. I'm standing here, I'm waiting for my car. So you can say now, well, in your specific incident, this is just an exception, that's not happening with others. And I can tell you, I got a ton of different, people approached me via Twitter or other approaches and told me that they have the same issue. Here in Germany, people have paid, they are waiting for it. They've been expecting in Q4, but they are still waiting in Q1. Even in Australia, I got the information that there's a ship with 4,000 vehicles waiting, and it couldn't be delivered in Q4, obviously, so all the customers are standing behind. So what I'm trying to say here is that what you believe is inventory building up is more related to supply chain issues within Tesla in order to deliver all the vehicles in Q4, so the situation is not as severe as people believe. Yes, certainly, people are canceling orders for whatever reason, delaying, taking it over, I don't know, a couple of things are happening. But my customer service guy told me, better you pay now, otherwise I have to allocate the car to another person. So there is demand even behind. There is a backlog of demand for all the vehicles that, have been shipped in Q4, couldn't be delivered to customers yet. So even if people are canceling, there's not really any issue with inventory here. So don't be distracted from the notion there's a problem. And other people are telling me, well, why is this then that Tesla has lowered pricing in certain countries? And I can say, well, pricing structure and strategy is a pretty complex thing to do. There are complex software tools only to define the right prices for certain products in certain regions at certain times. So this is B2B software that is sold, and I can tell you that's not an easy task. And if you say, well, in China or in other countries they have lowered pricing, I can say, well, in Germany they have made the pricing more expensive. The Model S is now 10K in euros more expensive than a year ago. So if there would be a real demand issue, we wouldn't see them increasing the pricing. And if I look into the different countries, in the inventory, Germany, we had zero inventory, and I believe they sold all the display models and all the cars in the showrooms to customers already, simply because there has been this logistics issues throughout the supply chain, and they wanted to get everything in they can within Q4. So my take on that is, I don't see really right now any severe demand issues, and the inventory that you have seen in Q4 increasing is not really inventory, because customers are standing behind and waiting for their car that's already allocated and they already paid for it. So don't be distracted by the noise you hear right now in mainstream media and from Wall Street, because we will see very different situations in a few months from now. And obviously I can't look into the future, so maybe something is changing in the future in terms of demand that may happen. But right now, today, beginning of January 2023, I can't find any serious demand issue within Tesla. I hope this was helpful, and enjoy.